Greetings, brothers and sisters of the warp. Today we are going to paint a Traitor Bulwark. I've been playing a lot of Space Marine 2 multiplayer since it launched, and I've been loving the Bulwark class here. The only problem is when I'm playing on my rightful side as a traitor, I'm forced to play as this guy, who definitely does not worship Slaanesh. So I decided to build this. This is a custom kitbashed miniature that I built inspired by the video game, with a Slaaneshi sonic twist. I'll be painting him in the colors of the glorious 3rd Legion, the Emperor's Children. This paint job is going to be quick and dirty. By that, I mean I'm not going to be watering down my paints or doing any elaborate edge highlighting nonsense, or Slaanesh forbid dragging out an airbrush. To begin, we're going to prime him all black. After that, we're going to take some Citadel lead belcher. Dry some of that excess paint on your brush off using cardboard or paper towel, and then start dry brushing all over the model. We're going to dry brush anything and everything that could be made out of metal here. Looking out for the trim, the sword, the backpack, all over. Next, we'll continue with the metallics and do the gold bits. I like to use Vallejo brass and old gold. These colors make for a really grim and realistic gold sheen. Starting with the brass, and just hit anything fancy like the speakers, skulls, any ornaments, sword hilts, stuff like that. I like to leave most of the trim a gunmetal color, but today I think I'll do gold trim on the pauldrons for this fancy guy. Now just highlight anything you painted with the brass with a bit of gold. Now before we move on to the pinks, we're going to take some Citadel Runefang steel, and we're going to use that to just highlight any shiny metal bits, spiky bit or shiny bit that sticks out, any metal pipes or tubes and odd sci-fi bits and gribbles. Now that that's done, let's do the pink. I use Citadel Emperor's Children pink, which I mixed with a bit of this metallic Zephyr pink from Army Painters. When it comes to painting the pink on an Emperor's Children miniature, you really don't have to paint that many of these armor panels. Just pick the ones that stand out and are easy to paint, biggest, broadest surfaces, and go in and start dabbing on the pink. That's the fun part about painting Emperor's Children. You can leave a lot of stuff painted black and get away with it. So I'll be leaving the hard to reach upper arms and legs black. If you're not getting very good coverage, don't worry about that. Just do an extra layer. 2 layers usually does it, but usually this paint isn't that runny. Mine is because I mixed it with this ink, but that's worth it because it's sparkly. After that, we'll be using Citadel Fulgrim Pink as a highlight. We're going to get the brush nice and dry and just lightly swipe and dab at the center of each armor panel. You won't need much, just a little dry highlight. If you mess up, just put a little more Emperor's Children pink and then try again. After that, we're going to clean up any pink that we got in our metallics. I got pretty lucky here and I only had to clean up a couple spots. Next, let's paint those odd black armor panels. Just slap on some Vallejo black. You really don't need to be neat here. Just avoid the trim and you've got it. Then once that's done, use whatever gray paint you have. I'm using Vallejo neutral gray here. And mix it with a bit of black for a nice dark gray. My gray was a little too bright here, but that's fine. We'll darken it up later if need be. Dab a light dry brush into the center of any black armor panel you've got. You won't need much. This effect looks good with minimal effort. Next, let's do the Sacred Space Marine loincloth. I start with Gal Vorbak red as my base color. I like to paint mine red for a more regal look. While I'm at it, using the same color, let's base coat his face. Lightly brush some all over his face here, not too thick. We want him looking nice and meaty. Now, let's get out some Citadel Mephiston red. First, let's brush that on the fabric, avoiding the edges and the shadows. Just go down the center, leaving a bit of that Gal Vorbak red. That looks good. This brother here is going to be rocking his natural white hair in reverence of the Primarch. For this, simply brush on some Vallejo neutral gray, then dry brush some white down the center of his hair after that, leaving a bit of the edges gray for color depth. Look at that handsome fellow. Disgusting. I'm going to use Vallejo lime green here. Most Chaos Space Marine models have odd little tubes here and there. I like to paint those green. And his cybernetic eye. Adding a little bit of green on the Emperor's Children miniature always adds some fun contrast. Then let's highlight with some white. No need to clean your brush in between here. Yeah, that looks good. Next, I'm going to use this Evil Chrome from Warpaints on this broken Chaos icon here. I didn't want to paint it gunmetal or gold because that would kind of distract from the miniature. So this brassy bronze color really looks good. Now then, for my bases, I like to start with Citadel Barakvar Burgundy. Just brush that on however much you like, avoiding the feet. Then we'll use Vallejo Purple to highlight that. We'll try and give it a modest dry brush, not too much, but enough to add some vibrancy to the base. Then I'll add a drop of Vallejo White to that purple that I was just using to make a light purple color. And then I'll do a very light dry brush of that color around the edges and any raised bits. Now let me share with you my secret weapon for Grimdark painting, Tamiya Black Panel Liner. This stuff is basically a much darker and much more precise Nuln Oil. It has an applicator you can use to darken any spot you want. I'm going to add it to the pauldrons here mainly, and anywhere else I feel looks a little dull or bright, darkening the miniature up until I'm satisfied. Now let's paint some bones. For skulls, I keep it very simple. I use Citadel Xandri Dust. Brush that on all over the skull. Not too heavy, leaving some of the shadows visible. Then add a tiny bit of white paint and dry brush that lightly on the raised bits for a bleached bone look. Now let's pimp out our sword with some FW Pearlescent Purple ink from De La Rowney. We're going to take a drop of this, dry off our brush a bit, and brush it onto his power sword. Now lastly, I want to try out this metallic glittering green from Warpaints that I picked up at the hobby store recently. I thought it looked cool, so I'm going to try it out. I'm going to use it on this jewel back here. Here we go. Oh yes, that's brilliant. Oh, it's beautiful. Praise Slanesh. All that's left for this little project is to paint the base frame black and take some glamour shots.